Holosky Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Monday Holocult. So you know what that means. We're here. And you're hanging out with us. And we appreciate you for choosing us to, do the stuff. Bring the weird. The mystery. The mysteries. Just the high strangeness. It's going to be a good time. If you're new to the show and you don't want to listen to me and Kyle chat, you're going to want to fast forward to about 5 minutes, give or take, somewhere in there. That's usually when we get to the actual substance of the episode. Sometimes it's different. Just look in the comments. Somebody on YouTube will point it out because they always do. Fucking nerds. But yeah, before we get into the episode, if you want a little teaser as to what to expect, we got the opposite of a missing person case. It's a found person, kind of. I don't know. Just stick around. We'll get through all the business and then we'll get there. So check us out on all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky Podcast. We will be there. Come and hang out. It's a good time. If you want a different listening experience, you can hop on over to the YouTube and watch me and Kyle's beautiful faces. And it's a whole different thing over there. Thank goodness for TikTok filters. Which oddly enough, we don't run this through TikTok before we post it up, but might have something to do with the nice ass cameras we got, but what do I know?
It's not true.
No. If you've got a paranormal experience you'd like for us to feature on a future show, Kyle's got some details for you that you're probably going to want.
I do. It's easy peasy, ladies and gentlemen. It's in the show notes. Show notes. But if you're too lazy to click that button, which I sympathize with you because I am also that way. I'm that motivated, or lack thereof. holoskypodcast@gmail.com. You can write your stories out. Shoot them over there. You have questions, concerns, shipping addresses for QR codes, whatever you got, send it to the email. The email is the best way to get a hold of us. We take that information, we store it in the patented filing system, and we do what's necessary to get it out there.
That's the sound the email makes when I'm moving it from the email to the folder that has no chronological order whatsoever. Just is. If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. Check us out at our Patreon. For a mere $7 a month, you get extra episodes, early drops on episodes, ad-free episodes, casket breath jams, which is awesome, and sometimes early merch drops, coupon drops, all sorts of goodies over there, all kinds of good stuff. We got some other things in the work we're thinking about doing, but we won't mention it. That way you can't hold us to it. Just how it is.
Or steal it.
Or steal it, nerds. Get your own shit.
Yeah, that is an ongoing issue that we need to avoid.
Rolling my eyes into another dimension.
Our ideas are one of a kind, and they will not be stolen.
It's true. What else we got?
Karate chops.
Yeah. You can share the show word of mouth. Oh, wait. Hold on. Forgot it. Go to holoskypodcast.com. There's a merch store over there. Get you some swag, rep the show, which I'm doing right now. If people watching YouTube, check this out. That's a hoodie, everyone. That is a hoodie with the metal logo. On the back, it says Holosky is a cult. They're not for sale because there's only 2 made.
Whoa.
Ever. Only 2 made. One's on my body, one's in Kyle's closet.
Yeah.
So
people are jelly.
They could be a thing at some point. But right now, this is 1 of 2. 2 of 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, share the show word of mouth. Just throw Holosky out there any chance you can. Bring us up to all the shows that you like to listen to. Maybe we can collab, keep the cult growing, keep the virus spreading. It's a good thing. Also, go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if I find them, I'll gladly shout you out, which this week's 5-star rating and review comes to us from Jesus Christ, which they left a long title, but Apple won't let me read it. So it says Paranormal Pod You Sent 5 stars. Wide gamut of all sorts of interesting and strange jaunts into the mysterious and unexplained with two charismatic and easily relatable hosts. Why, thank you.
Thank you.
The lengthy researched episodes are really great, but also have the live episodes of listeners presenting their own brush with the 40 inside. Neither type disappoints, and the Holosky podcast has quickly become my nightly go-to podcast, above Belief Hole, Astonishing Legends, Mysterious Universe, and That Would Be Rad. All top tier of the genre. From our friend Liam. Well, Jesus, Liam, we appreciate the kind words and all the ego boosts with our charisma.
This is true. We do appreciate it putting us up there with the heavyweights.
Yeah, it's weird having our name on the same echelon as in my mind real podcasts.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a rightful way of putting it.
But yeah, we're out here trying our best. But yeah, so we'll get right into this. Not really a paranormal mystery. So we're kind of dipping our toes in some other stuff for 2025, kind of moving stuff around. And yeah, so this is almost like a reverse missing person case, right? You have a person, but essentially that person never existed, which is kind of crazy when you think about it in a way. We'll start it off. In 2009, a man arrived at the seaport town of Sligo, Ireland. He was an elderly man with graying hair, thinned frame prescription glasses, a black leather jacket. He appeared peacefully lost in the little footage that would be taken of him while visiting the small town. The footage was taken from CCTV cameras from all around the town center. For the next 3 days, the man known only as Peter Bergman would meticulously erase all evidence of him existing ever. His lifeless body would soon be discovered in local waters on a beach not long after his arrival. Authorities retrieved the body only to find out that Peter Bergman had cut all the labels out of his clothing and had no documentation on him whatsoever. It was only then that they would trace him back to a hotel in which he stayed, that they would realize that Peter Bergman was not real at all and essentially had never existed. All that we're really left with is these few days he spent in Sligo. Nobody can place Peter Bergman anywhere else in the world, ever. Wild, right?
Why in God's name did he cut all the labels out of his clothes?
Yeah.
To me, that's extremely bizarre.
And it's not the only case where we've heard that happen.
It's so weird.
I'm not privy to the forensic techniques that can be used, but I don't know that you can trace specific clothing to a point of sale just via the tags in the clothing.
I have no idea. If you can, that's far beyond what I would have assumed you can do.
Some CSI stuff.
That's some TV shit.
Let's get into it because it's wild. So on Friday, June 12th, the man was first spotted at the Ulster bus depot in Derry, Ireland, between 2:30 and 4 o'clock local time. He boarded a bus headed to Sligo, in another town about 2 hours away from Derry, carrying a black shoulder bag and a standard carry-on luggage bag. He arrived at 6:30 at the Sligo bus station and took a taxi to the Sligo City Hotel, where he paid per night in cash, which seems like this was purposeful because considering he was a walk-in, he didn't have to make any reservations, therefore not giving anybody any ample time to actually check if the information he's giving was valid. While checking in, he gave the false name of Peter Bergman and an address that was later reported as Annerstetten 15 4472 Vienna, Austria. Should be noted that the name Bergman is usually spelled two different ways. One with one end at the end and one with two ends at the end. Often it's spelled with just one end, but in people with Austrian descent, the two ends are prominent, which either means he's familiar with this and from Austria, or he's even meticulously calculated his homework to make that stand out.
I hope that's the case. I hope that he's actually just trying to make it stand out, because that's doing work, and I can appreciate that.
He is meticulous, if nothing else, and you'll come to find this out because it's fucking crazy.
Well, that's good. That's gonna make it fun then.
Yeah. The man had a slender build. He stood about 5'10", had short gray hair, blue eyes, a tan complexion, and appeared to be in his late 50s, early 60s. According to staff and tenants at the Sligo City Hotel, the man had a thick German accent, but he spoke English. He was neatly groomed, his face was shaven, his hair was clean and combed. The man was well dressed, wearing a black leather jacket, blue trousers, socks, a black leather belt, and a pair of black shoes. His clothing were from C&A, a popular fashion retail store in Europe, with most of its stores also located in Germany or Austria. From the man's appearance, it was assumed that he was a professional worker. He was a frequent smoker, and several surveillance videos showed him smoking outside often. After checking in under the name Peter Bergman, he kept a very low profile. He took notice of several security cameras installed inside and outside of the hotel. It was said that he also took a keen look at the city's center public CCTV cameras that were set up throughout several streets. So the city's not very big. Of Sligo, it's probably about 20,000 people, so essentially probably like 2.5 times the size of Jerseyville. But they have very prominent CCTV cameras, and they're very easily like noticed. They're up on poles and stuff, and it kind of keeps track of everything in the city center. And you can see him as he's walking about. If you get a chance, check out the CCTV footage of him. It's so like haunting. It's so crazy because you can see him actively like mapping out where these cameras are, checking them out. And it's weird because he has no qualms being caught on camera until later on, which makes it even crazier.
So is it suggesting like a form of premeditation, if you will? Like it's like a planning.
Yes.
Very strategic.
100%.
Mapping everything out. I mean, it's thorough to say the least, you know, which once again, I can appreciate that he's doing his homework. The only downside to his section of this story is the fact that he gets caught planning these cameras. But that's unfortunate. It's
almost like he didn't even care that he was being caught on cameras, though. In this realm, like he's just taking notice of where they're at. And he knows he's on film because he has no problem as he's going about his day, like being caught on these cameras, except for one specific part of the story, which we're about to get into. So for the next 3 days, guests and staff at the hotel recount seeing Peter leave the hotel carrying a purple plastic bag. Every time he leaves, this plastic bag is full of stuff. They're not sure what it is, but at the end of every day, he would come back to the lobby empty-handed. So he's taking something of we're assuming his belongings, putting them in this plastic bag, going about his business and discarding them all over town. Coming back, probably it's assumed that the plastic bag is put in his pocket when he returns, but he's systematically getting rid of everything that he owns.
That or he has a bunch of purple plastic bags.
But, okay, where am I at? It's presumed that he had disposed of his belongings throughout Sligo, then folded the bag up and put it in his pocket. Authorities were unable to identify what he threw away in the public trash bins, as the man used blind spots from the CCTV surveillance cameras every time he went out to throw these things away. His movements were very meticulous and methodical, as if he knew exactly where to hide his stuff that would identify him to the point to where nobody could find them. He didn't care being caught on CCTV footage until he was disposing of the items that would identify him. And at that point, he was so meticulous that he picked trash bins, dumpsters, just anywhere he could dump this stuff where there were no cameras in this town that had a ton of cameras.
I'm personally so lost right now because I don't understand. I don't have the entirety of the story, so I don't know why he's even getting rid of his shit.
Nobody does.
So nobody ever figured out what he was getting rid of or why he's getting rid of it.
No.
But it had at least some significance to it because he purposely goes out of his way to find blind spots in the CCTV footage to not be seen throwing it away and what it was being thrown away, if it was presumably being thrown away. And from a crime standpoint, you can only imagine that whatever he's throwing away is probably of significance because he's not wanting it to be seen.
Right.
It's weird. So weird.
It's weird. And it almost like twofolds because...
And does he even like commit a crime?
Not while he's there. Nope. Nobody knows. No, up to the point he boarded that bus in Derry, nobody knows who this man is. And now the only thing that has any identity to this man is those 4 days in Sligo. Which is crazy. It's crazy.
Because I'm trying to like come up with a reason. Like, was it simply just some bizarre OCD thing?
They don't know. Like the theories go way out there. Way out there. But we'll get there.
I'm curious to hear him because I right now I'm lost. Like I don't know. I guess I just don't have enough information.
Yeah, like your brain
to really claw into it.
Your brain goes to a point to like, what was, I guess for lack of a better term, what was the man running away from? So much to the point to where he just dissipated his entire past. To the point to where he like planned out every move he made in this small town. It's almost like he was like in a way documenting this, like making a documentary about himself via these CCTV footages, which is fucking weird.
So let me clear some brain fog. Okay. Prior to him being in this town, he is of no existence, right?
That anybody can find.
So nobody's ever found, like, we'll just say originally who this guy is.
No.
They only know of his existence through the footage in this town.
Yeah, as of February 2025, the only thing tied to this man is him being Peter Bergman for the 4 days from Derry to Sligo.
Okay. Because now I have some theories. Some pretty plausible ones, I feel like. But it's just, and we'll wait to go through it, but because maybe there's more to the story that I need to hear to.
It doesn't, like, as far as trying to identify him, it doesn't help. The shit gets weird, but it doesn't, like, he literally leaves nothing, which is insanity. Anyway, so strangely enough, when authorities reviewed the hours of CCTV footage, they noticed something stranger about Bergman, as I'd mentioned. It became apparent to the investigators that the old man had pre-selected his routes to avoid being recorded by the CCTV cameras that kept a constant look throughout Sligo. Only when he was disposing of his items. Any other time, he was fine being caught on camera. But when he took his purple bag out, he had a meticulously planned route that he went to where he was not caught on camera after leaving the hotel. Which also, like, leads to him meticulously planning these routes out while he's in his hotel room. Because you go to a city you've essentially, like, we have to assume that he's never been there before. Because he was out scouting the cameras prior to. like there's a level of planning there. Like if you put me in a town that I'm not familiar with and I just go out and pick the cameras out, like I'm going to have to plan my routes to not get caught on those cameras. So that takes some time and some dedication.
Well, not only that, but imagine the level of detail it takes for a person to even remember
Oh yeah.
where all these cameras are. Like and this is kind of where it goes into my theory, but I feel like a person like that is one of two people. Someone who has like a severe OCD thing and almost like a photographic memory, or someone who's been trained to have that aspect to them.
Yep.
And right now, I am leaning to a trained individual.
Yep.
Because I feel like right now, if this man is that meticulous, so if he's this meticulous, and he's meticulous enough to be not captured throwing things away, he's also meticulous enough to know that this town has plenty of cameras and that if his presence shouldn't be there to begin with. So I'm kind of leaning to the angle right now that his time on CCTV is for a reason.
Yeah, that's kind of what I felt too. Like he wanted people to know he was there.
Yeah.
Almost. But then again, the steps he took to erase the fact that he was there, also weird. So investigators fast forward through the tape a whole nother day, and again they find Bergman leaving the hotel with his purple bag full of his belongings and coming back empty-handed. All the while, he manages to be seen by security cameras for just brief moments of the day. Some questions. Where did Bergman go every day? We don't fucking know because he meticulously planned his routes not to be caught on these cameras. What was in the bag? We can only assume the things that were in the bag were his personal belongings that he's trying to get rid of. Is that fact? We don't know.
How big is the bag approximately?
Just like a regular little, it's smaller than a grocery bag. It's like a little plastic, like you could probably fit a couple books in it.
Okay.
It's probably like 10 inches wide by probably 14 inches high.
Okay.
You can't get a lot in there. So it's weird. On the second day in Sligo, Bergman went to a local post office and bought 82 cents worth of stamps and airmail stickers. However, extensive research yields no information as to what he did with the stamps and stickers. Did he have family somewhere that he sent like a final correspondence to? No information could be found on the stamps, whether they were sent out or what destination they made it to. All they know is that he purchased the stamps and airmail stickers, and they were not anywhere to be found after they found his body. So that almost leads one to believe that maybe somebody does know him that he reached out to.
Yeah. That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I mean, typically you don't buy stamps just to buy stamps.
No, just to throw them away in a purple plastic bag. So on his third and final day at Sligo, Bergman hailed a taxi and asked to be taken to a local beach. He seemed unfamiliar and asked the taxi driver, "What's the quietest, most peaceful beach you have around here?" According to the driver said, "Ross's Point is probably the best one you have." The driver took him there. He got out, had a look around at the area, seemed pretty content with himself, got back into the taxi and returned to the Sligo station. The driver said he didn't really communicate with anybody while he was on the beach. He didn't really mix with anyone, and he was pretty quiet when he was in the taxi. Nothing substantial stood out. So on Monday, the 15th of June, the man checked out of the hotel at 1:06 p.m., handed in his room key. He also so checkout time was 11 o'clock, but he had went and asked the woman at the desk if he could have a late checkout. Said he had some appointments to make and he had some people to meet that was going to require him to stay at the hotel a little bit longer. They're like, "That's fine. You checked in with us. That's cool." They can't corroborate any of that. outside of the fact that he stayed at the hotel. He didn't check out till 1 o'clock. They don't know if he met anyone. He's not seen on camera going anywhere else. It's almost like he made it up to hit a specific, like, almost like a specific time point or something. I don't know. It's just that aspect is so weird that essentially if you're planning on like going out and ending your life, what's an extra 2 hours going to be unless you're, I don't know. Anyway, he handed his room key in and he left with a black shoulder bag, a purple plastic bag, and a different piece of black luggage than he actually checked in with 4 days ago. He did not have the same black carry-on bag that he had when he first arrived. So A, there's no evidence of him getting rid of this initial black carry-on bag. And there's no evidence of him getting this new bag back into the hotel. Which in itself is still kind of crazy. Like, you can hide bags, but the fact that he would go through all that to do that.
It feels like some type of espionage spy shit is what it feels like.
100%. 100%. It should also be noted, I didn't write it down because there are tons of videos on YouTube. I suggest you to go watch them. I got a source of this small, like 20-minute documentary that was made. Excellent. If you got 20 minutes, go watch it. It's haunting just watching this man move throughout the town, knowing that nobody knows who he is. And nobody essentially will ever know who he is at this point. Anyway, as he's leaving with his new luggage and carry-on, he walked to the bus station via K Street and Wine Street and then stopped at Kayside Shopping Center and kind of awkwardly waited around the door for a number of minutes. At 1:15, he left the shopping center and walked along Wine Street in the direction of the bus station, still carrying all 3 bags, mind you. At 1:38, he ordered a cappuccino and toasted ham and cheese sandwich at the bus station. Which that in itself, like these small, minute details make him feel like just like a person, I guess. Like he's just going throughout his day.
I still feel like that's spycraft.
Yeah.
Like even just buying the ham sandwich or whatever. Like I feel like this is a part of his routine. I feel like everything he does has a purpose to it.
Yeah.
Even as simple
does.
as buying a ham sandwich. I feel like it has a purpose to it. There's a reason he's doing this. Because it makes me feel like, and I know that like this is fantastical and everything, but it makes me feel like you watch these bizarre hitman movies.
Oh.
Where they have these rituals that they do where they would eat a steak a very specific way and use the cutlery a very specific way, and they have a process that they need to fulfill. Once again, almost OCD type behavior, but it's like a ritual for them.
Yep.
And the way they go about doing things.
100%. It's wild. I suggest go watch. Like I said, I'll quote the source at the end of the episode, but go watch it. Like, cause you watch him just existing. He's sitting at tables with other people, and these other people have no idea that this man is essentially a ghost. Like he's non-existent. As he's sitting there, finishes his sandwich, he takes out a couple folded pieces of paper that he had in his pocket. He's looking at them, at these papers, reading stuff, and he's jotting things down on this paper as he's going. Which essentially you would think he's writing things down to remind himself of something, right? After he finishes his food, he takes the pieces of paper, rips them up, and throws them away in a garbage can. The things he just wrote notes on, just got it out, read it, wrote his notes down, threw it away. The police chief at the time stated that they weren't able to go through the garbage because they didn't review the CCTV footage for 4 days. By that point, it had all been gone. He also goes on record to say that he was so meticulous about hiding, they couldn't even track what bins he had went to to throw away whatever he was throwing away from the purple bag to a point to where they could narrow it down. But they looked. The Irish, I forget what they call them, Garda or whatever it is, even went to the local dump and sifted through weeks and weeks worth of garbage to try to find anything that would lead to the identity of who this man was.
No, outside of him dropping a purple bag, you ain't finding shit.
No, they didn't find
unless
anything.
you searched that very day that he dropped stuff off. Outside of that, you're not. Good luck.
And
good luck.
You're assuming he left anything of any identification in that bag
because
at all anyway.
If dude paid for his hotel in cash money, you think he went down to Mickey D's and used his credit card?
Yeah.
No. You're not going to be that meticulous only to be that sloppy.
Yeah. Yep. But they did look. So it was a big enough deal. They were trying to figure out who he was. So after he finished eating and threw his stuff away, he went to the bus, or he ate the food at the bus station. He mounted a bus that departed at 2:20 for Ross's Point. It was reported that he had been seen by at least 16 people walking on the beach, casually greeting passersby. Some witnesses then put Bergman on the beach again alone. Kind of like they did an interview in the documentary of people who'd seen him on the beach and said that he looked peaceful. He had a newspaper tucked under his arm. He was just walking with his pants rolled up, wading through the waves of the beach. Like almost like he was at ease with what was to come next. Someone also said they saw him later that evening. He was still at the beach, just loitering around, just taking in everything. The old man waved and nodded at them when they exchanged greetings. The following morning, on Tuesday, the 16th of June, Arthur Kinsella and his son, Brian, who was training for a triathlon, noticed what they thought was a mannequin laying on the beach at 6:45 a.m. As they got closer to it, they realized that it in fact was not a mannequin, but it was a man's body, wearing purple striped Speedo-type swimming trunks with his underpants over the top and a navy blue shirt tucked into them. Arthur and Brian called the Gardaí, which is the National Police and Security Service of Ireland, I found out. And Dr. Valerie McGowan officially pronounced the man dead. Following the discovery of the man's body, a 5-month investigation into his identity was conducted by the Gardaí. The inspection of the body was revealed that Bergman had cut or removed every single label from all the articles of clothing that he wore, almost as to conceal his measurements. Let alone, maybe, I guess that makes more sense. Not so much that it would possibly be tied into where he purchased them, because they did link it back to that C&A clothing store that was prominent in Germany and Austria.
Yeah, but couldn't you just measure the pants?
Probably. And another thing, like maybe he just didn't like. Part of me is like, well, maybe he didn't like how tags felt, because when I was little, I used to I had my mom would cut the tags out of the back of my shirt because they just bothered me. But like every tag was cut out of his clothing, 100%.
Yeah. And I obviously don't know spycraft that well to make any inkling as to what that was done for. I have no idea. Maybe best case scenario, you do it to throw their trail off longer. Could be. Finding out who you were.
I know some other cases that I don't go into, but there are other cases of people that were found missing or murdered that had their tags cut out of their clothing as well, which is strange.
I feel like I got a solid theory for this when we get to that point.
Hell yes. So when an autopsy was performed, investigators learned that there was no evidence of saltwater drowning. So what they thought was him essentially, because the theory kind of was that he was going to off himself, go into the ocean, it was going to suck him out into the ocean, and he would never be found. Then the theory was that didn't work. He went out, drowned, washed back up on the beach. No evidence of drowning. Strange. They did, however, find no evidence, or they found no evidence of any kind of foul play, but they did discover that Bergman was in a stage of advanced prostate cancer and that his body was riddled with bone tumors. They also found that he had suffered multiple heart attacks throughout his life and survived them. They also found no evidence of any sort of painkillers in his system, which with this much of an advanced state of cancer and bone tumors, they said in theory, this man should be in excruciating pain. Enough so to where he would need something to help lull that. But there were no like opiates, there were no nothing, not even aspirin in this man's system. So he was just raw dogging these ailments, which is notable because they pointed out multiple times in different documentaries. According to post-mortem report, the body of the man was found on Ross's Point. 300 yards away, they found his shoes, socks, trousers, jumper, his black leather jacket, a packet of tissues, a sum of cash, sheets of blank paper, a wristwatch, and soap from the hotel. Even though the man had been washed up on the beach, the Sligo medical examiner, Clive Killigan, found no evidence of a classic saltwater drowning, but also no signs of foul play that would give reason to believe that the man's death was a homicide. The man's teeth were in good condition and well taken care of, showed signs of frequent dental work in his life. He had bridging, root canals, crowns, and even had a full gold tooth in the upper back right side of his mouth, and a small silver filling along the gum line of a tooth on the left lower jaw. So you would like that in itself you'd almost think would be able to be traced back to somewhere, right?
Yeah, in theory, sure.
Like bridge work should have like identification, you'd think. I don't know. It's weird.
He's it's also operating in another country, things we don't know much about.
That's
to be
true.
Fair.
That's true. I guess I didn't think about that. Again, it's noted that notably for a man who had these serious health conditions, the toxicology report stated that he had no medication of any sort in his system. The medical examiner noted that due to the man's health status, he would have been in significant pain at all times and would probably have required a prescription pain medication or at least over-the-counter relievers to help alleviate that pain. After a 5-month investigation, the body was buried in Sligo. The funeral was attended by 4 members of the Gardaí. Some sources say that during the police investigation following his death, it was discovered that the address he gave the hotel was actually non-existent. They state that it was essentially a vacant lot in Austria. Others have seemed to point out that that might not be the case because the spelling of Ansterton Street did not exist in Austria or Germany. Additionally, the Vienna postcodes begin with the number 1 rather than the number 4 that he gave at the hotel. The postcode 4472 is unassigned. It doesn't exist. So it's unclear how police would have been able to establish that the fake address was tied to a vacant lot when the address didn't exist, or maybe they just assumed that that was where this led. What is certain is that the man wanted to remain unknown, and he preemptively planned his moves so that he could not be identified. In the documentary, the woman that ran the hotel also talks of a little like quip of an interaction she had with the man. So the cleaning crews were trying to get into his room on the 3rd day they were there. They knocked and knocked and knocked, couldn't get any answer. So she was going to go up and let them in. She said when she did, she unlocked the door and stepped through. Bergman was there, like standing in the door. And she said, when I opened the door, he looked at me with such a shock on his face, almost not like he was surprised to see her, but more so like he was doing something that he didn't want to be caught doing. But when he saw it was her, she said you could see that he was relieved that she was the one that came through the locked door, not somebody else, which sort of leads kind of in the direction Kyle's going, that maybe this man was being sought after.
Yeah.
In 2015, the French newspaper Le Monde reported that they had contacted Austrian police about the case, and that the Austrian police commented that the Gardaí had never actually contacted them. So they just kept it local to Ireland. Le Monde also reported that there is no Interpol notice for the unidentified man because the body did not fall into either of the 2 Interpol categories, a missing person, or be a wanted person. It's the responsibility of the man's country of origin to report them missing. So it was never investigated by Interpol either because they don't know where he came from. As of February 2025, the man is still publicly unidentified. No relatives, no friends, no witnesses have come forward despite public appeals from the Austrian and German newspapers. As investigators dug and traced all evidence of Bergman in Sligo, they came to the realization that Peter Bergman never really existed. No records matched a man of his stature and physicality named Peter Bergman. The only thing authorities were sure about was that Peter Bergman was a person that did not exist. It was a made-up name, just like the address he used to check into the hotel, that was essentially traced back to an empty lot somewhere in Vienna, Austria. The documentary I was talking about, called The Last Days of Peter Bergman, about 20 minutes long, produced by Carrie and Cassidy and Morgan Boucher, definitely worth looking into. Port authorities in Ireland ran all incoming information and reviewed all CCTV footage over a month before Peter ever boarded that bus in Derry. They can't figure out when or how he got into the country. So he had been essentially either snuck in or had been in Ireland for at least a month, because that's as far back as they could go on their CCTV footage. No passports were issued to a man with the name of Peter Bergman matching his description and age ever in mainland Europe, North America, or South America. So, didn't exist anywhere there. He was posted all over international media with no one coming forward as to ever knowing the man. They had his DNA and his fingerprints, and they were all ran through international databases, and it did not hit in any jurisdiction whatsoever. One thing to be noted, they could not submit his DNA to ancestry sites because a policy that they had to have the permission of the man putting it forward. So they couldn't use that. So essentially, we're just left with a lot of questions. Who was Peter Bergman if he wasn't Peter Bergman? Why did he go through the lengths he went through to essentially just be a ghost and dissipate his entire identity? You know, like, part of this story resonates with me a lot. Watching the CCTV footage of him just existing, just like, because he's so just like chill, right? And there's a certain romanticism to the whole thing to me because I travel a lot by myself and I love being places where nobody knows who I am. They don't know my past. They don't know what I'm there for. I can just essentially just exist and not have to exist. And like, I don't know, it just resonates with me. So I can see how that would be so appealing to him, especially if he was planning on ending his life. So it just leaves you with questions like what was he running away from? Right? Why give a false name? Why get rid of all your belongings? Why did he choose Sligo? Like, was there a certain aspect of that town that he was familiar with? Like, did he have some sort of emotional connection to it? Because that argument could be made, you know, like maybe he did. Maybe he visited there as a kid or whatever. But it almost is washed away the fact that he had to ask the taxi, like, where's the quietest, nicest beach? Well, the beaches haven't changed, so it's almost like he wasn't very privy to the area. You know, and
yeah.
where did the letters go that he mailed? Apparently, clearly he used his stamps to do something. You know, if he didn't die by drowning, what was the cause of death? That was never put forth.
Was there ever an official cause of death?
Not that I could find.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
That is bizarre, especially considering, you know, if it's true that his body was riddled with tumors and stuff like that, and he showed previous heart attacks and so on and so forth. And then he had no pain medication inside him at all, which is even more bizarre. Especially to be able to walk around that humbly and that carefree and chill, as you say. You would think that you would see the man grimace at least once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having that amount of pain coursing through you. Man, I'm stuck on two ideas. One, there's some form of severe mental degradation that happened to him. He has some type of mental illness, essentially. And the dude is just off his rocker tenfold. However, I'm leaning more toward the idea that, and this is probably going to be considered relatively far out there. I'm leaning more toward the camp that dude worked in a specific field, whether that be spycraft, hitman style work, something to that effect. And the reason why I lean that way is because he's extremely meticulous, which takes a very special person to do. It's not, I don't feel like it's just something regular people do. I just don't. You'll never convince me of that. A lot of his behavior that Steve described seemed ritualistic to me. And at the same time, as Steve's describing this situation to me, it almost makes me wonder, and this is probably like the fantasy side of my brain kicking in, but it makes me feel like dude worked for some type of organization that does not at all fuck around, plain and simple. And he went to this location to die. And I think that he made himself known on the CCTV that when he did die, that was the message to the beholders. Yep. Look, I have cashed out. I'm done. All right. So, because who's to say that he didn't have family somewhere that couldn't be up on the execution block because of whatever he did in his past? Yep. So for whatever, because in my opinion, there was a reason he made himself known, and there's a reason why his death is so mysterious.
I agree.
I don't think that's a coincidence at all. And also by what you described, it does make me feel like, because you painted that romanticized picture, it makes me feel like, all right, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I've accepted my fate. I'm going to take what small enjoyment I have, and I'm going to be on my way, especially knowing that my loved ones are safe, or whatever reasoning he had behind doing what he did. Not to mention the dude was out on the way out anyways. But I do feel like he made his death public, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Like he put it out there for someone to find. And
it essentially is like he got to choose his own, like he got to choose all this. Like this was his doing. Like, and essentially the CCTV footage was kind of like him like you said, it made it public. Him documenting his own final half a week on the planet, which is again, I use the term romanticism. It kind of is like he's getting to the point where he's okay with it.
Because who's to say he didn't at one point, like you kind of pointed out already, that he passed through that town and was like, man, I really like it here. Like this is peaceful. Like yep. I would like to, like you have that fantasy of, I would like to retire here one day.
Yep.
You know, and he chose it all. I feel like the dude was so meticulous that everything he did had a reasoning behind it. Period. 100%. The end. Period. The end. And I just, because if you look back at the Lake City Quiet Pill episode, how they all worked.
That's the exact same thing I thought of when I was writing this.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
what if in those situations they don't necessarily meet up to have conversations and have open communications? So what if you have to, in a roundabout way, make your death public to that degree, so they are like, okay, well, Steve's off the chessboard now.
Yep.
So if there's any communications that come from Steve or so on and so forth, or maybe there's a payout waiting and you need, like, hey, I'm going to cash out, so my payout needs to go to my family.
Yep.
And here's my death publicly put.
That was another, like, the two main theories are that he was obviously dying and was essentially in so much pain that he could not wait for these ailments to take his life. So he was going to do it on his own terms, but he still, like, if there were some kind of, like, medical benefits to be paid out to his family, he wanted those to continue, because sometimes those don't happen when a person takes their own life. But that doesn't exactly explain why he went through all of the meticulousness to just be a ghost and be completely anonymous, to erase essentially every aspect. Because if you think about it, this was planned way in advance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they went back a month.
I feel like he was already erased.
Yeah, they went back a month to see when he even came into the country.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's like, how do you
well,
have
how
to
do you
have
magically just get bags from your hotel room?
Yeah, and you have
None
to
of
have
it
you have to have a
sense.
passport to get into the countries.
Yeah.
So, like, this was well planned. And, like, the thing that just stands out in my brain is that Ireland put this out all over the place. Like, international media knows this man's face, this man's fingerprints, this man's DNA. No one ever in the last how many years, 15 years or whatever the fuck, has come forward to say that they know who he is.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that it was noted in one of the sources that I was looking through that Sligo is a prominent, like, vacation spot for members of the IRA. Is that Irish Resistance?
I think so, yeah.
Which, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean he was tied to that or anything, but maybe in his past he was. The fact that he had such a thick German accent and Austrian accent, and he spoke English, like, everything about it just leads in so many different directions to essentially confuse anybody who tries to figure out who this man was.
And like I said, you don't do any of that for no reason.
No, especially to that point.
Yeah.
I also noted here that the missing tags and clothing stand out from other unsolved deaths, such as the Isdal woman, the Somerton man, and Jennifer Fergate, who was recently featured on the Unsolved Mysteries. All these people were found dead, either essentially by their own hands or not, and they all had all of their tags cut from their clothing, which makes you wonder if maybe there really is something to this. If they are not the ones cutting their tags from their clothing, is this like a calling card? Like, hey, these people have been taken care of. This is how you know.
That would be bizarre if it was some hitter out there and that was the way they claimed.
Yeah. It's weird.
Because it would be a bizarre trophy system for, say, a serial killer.
Yeah. But I mean, weirder shit.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm just saying, for me, I don't know if it makes sense.
If it was like, okay, say these people did have bounties on their head and they end up dead, maybe that's the way to show whoever's making the payouts, hey, these are done. It was done the way that you want them. Nobody's going to have any idea how it happened. This is to let you know we took care of this.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
But on, like, even
but there would have to be more, like, you know, and to argue opposite, a serial killer in retrospect does make more sense to take the tags than because there would have to be some type of significance to the tags for confirmation kills.
Yeah.
There would have to be something more than we understand.
Yeah. But essentially, that's pretty much all I got because nobody has anything else at this point.
It's a bizarre case. I mean, you don't hear about this very often where somebody's found. They've been a ghost their entire life.
It's weird, man.
And then they make themselves public.
Sometimes human mysteries are stranger than paranormal.
I agree.
Because, like, goddamn. So essentially, we're left right where we started. Nobody knows who Peter Bergman is, except that he's not Peter Bergman. For sources, if you guys want to look into it more, I cannot stress it enough. Check out the Aeon video documentary called The Last Days of Peter Bergman, One Man's Mysterious Haunting Exit. Wikipedia's got a good write-up. Ghosttheory.com has a good write-up. Tons of things on Reddit about it where people have looked in and essentially cannot find out who this man is or why he wanted his death essentially documented on CCTV cameras, why he cared so much that he was never identified. All of these things. It's just bizarre. It is just bizarre. Thought y'all did enjoy it. If anybody else has any information on it, please let us know. But yeah, that's that. So again, thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope everybody has a great work week. Hopefully this kickstarts it in the direction it needs to go. So check us out all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Discord, Reddit. You know the drill. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and I don't know, it makes you wonder whenever you see people out and about what exactly kind of life they're living. And it's